Normally, I like to recommend plants you might want to consider adding into your landscape, but today I just couldn't help pass up this plant, and this is one that I definitely would not recommend incorporating into your landscape, but it is one that you might find out in the wild or on roadsides or open fields. Here you can see we're at a new construction site, and this is one that's just kind of taken off here. This plant is known as Dodder, and that's D-O-D-D-E-R. It is an interesting plant, and you can see how what I'm talking about is what looks like this orangish yellow silly string of a plant. It's not actually the green plant underneath it. This is a parasitic vine because it doesn't photosynthesize very well. And you might know and remember that plants need to photosynthesize in order to produce their own sugars in order to live and survive. So this plant has adapted a way to live and survive without being able to photosynthesize itself. So when it sprouts from a seed, it has about 10 days in order to find a host plant to live off of. So as it germinates, it starts kind of swirling around these thin strands. One strand will come up and start swirling around. And research has found that it actually can sort of sense volatiles from nearby plants and really will hone in and select the preferred host plant that it wants to attach to. Now, as it finds that plant and wraps around that particular host plant, it produces adventitious type roots that are called historia. These historia roots will actually penetrate down into the vascular system of the host plant, allowing the dodder to then rob that host plant of water, nutrients, and minerals. So once it finds that host plant and is able to feed off that host plant, it actually detaches itself from the soil. Now, if it doesn't find a host plant within 10 days, it sort of just dries up because it doesn't have the capability to produce enough energy to live itself, and it can't mine enough energy out of the soil either. So here you can see we've got a successful colony of dodder that has found a lot of host plants here. It's sort of thriving on some of this ragweed that's growing here. And you can see it just sort of looks like this tangled mess as it grows up this plant. Now this one in particular is not actually blooming, but you can see some sections behind me where it's not quite as bright yellow or bright orange as this one is. And it's actually already going to flower. So here I have a little clump that I took from back there, and you might think at first this flower is the plant of the host plant, but this bell-shaped white flower is actually the flower of the dodder. You can see it's a prolific, very floriferous. It's got a lot of flowers on there that are going to produce a lot of seeds. And this dodder plant is an annual, which means that seed bank is very important for its survival. And those seeds, unfortunately for us, but impressive for the plant, can live up to 20 years in the soil. So those seeds will be viable for quite a long time. Now, again, I don't recommend this, but a lot of times you do find it throughout the United States growing. And if you do come across it and you have it in your landscape, how do you remove it? Well, the first thing is not to allow it to establish itself. So if you see it when it's really small, make sure that you remove it before it's actually able to establish itself and penetrate that host plant. But that can be pretty difficult because it's just a small little thread that's coming up. If you do actually find it later on, once it's sort of colonized, the best thing that you can do is try to remove as much of that plant material as possible, including those host plants as well. If you have it growing on something that you don't want to remove your host plant, say it's an ornamental shrub or something like that, you can try to at least prune out as much of that as possible by actually pruning some of that ornamental plant, because they have found that historia, it will actually grow into that plant. And so if you remove the dodder from it, that historia root will actually re-sprout. And while this is an annual, further research has even found that it has the potential to overwinter in those ornamental plants too. So that's a little concerning. But for the most part, it does act like an annual, so it's going to die with its first frost here. If you are looking for a chemical option to control it, a non-selective herbicide will take care of this, but keep in mind that non-selective means that it will also take care and kill anything else that you're spraying in that area as well. So I just wanted to mention this. It's a very unique plant, and some of that research that I was talking about earlier, they've actually planted dodder in between tomatoes and wheatgrass, and they have found that in most instances it's always gone to the tomato plant versus the wheat plant, because it kind of can sense which plant's going to be more favorable for that warm season growing climate for it to grow. So as an annual, towards the later season, like I said, we're coming out of summer, it's going to produce those flowers and produce that seed bank. Another alternative chemical method is to put down a pre-emergent to prevent any of the Dodder seeds from actually establishing in your landscape as well. Not too much of a concern for most people, but in case you're driving along the roads and you see some yellow silly string, now you know that it's a plant named Dodder.
We hope you enjoyed this video as part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on the OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.